Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me. And I got a giant on here. I got a daggum giant. So I'm doing a little mid-range. I got a really big one on here. Doing a little mid-range fishing. A little offshore structure fishing. And I got a big one. There we go. Whew. That's a beautiful bass right there. And they will still bite a bass trick swim bait on a jig head. That's 4 pounds at least, maybe 4.5, closer. Yeah, probably 4.5. So we're gonna get her back. Man, that's a pretty fish. Throwing a swim bait. Now, I've been wacky rigging, I've been spinner baiting, I've been fishing a lot shallower than I am today. And I just try to learn something new. I mean, I want to get on the head of these fish coming out of these bays. And this isn't something I do real well. I struggle this time of year, but I think the reason I struggle is I don't fish where the fish are at. I'm too busy trying to catch them the way I caught them in February and March, and they're leaving those places. So the best way to learn, if you know a body of water and you want to learn a new technique, get around those places where you always catch them and just fish a little bit differently. So typically, if we were here a couple months ago, I would be much shallower. I'd be fishing much slower. And the biggest tip I can give you on the difference between pre-spawn and post-spawn, pre-spawn bass are very condensed. Post-spawn, they're very spread out. So pre-spawn, you can stay in one little area, catch a bunch of fish. Post-spawn, true post-spawn, not summer when they start grouping up, but true post-spawn, you have to cover a ton of water because they're coming out one by one. So cover a ton of water, get out in front of those areas where you typically catch them pre-spawn, and try some different baits. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned doing this for 25 years is you can learn a bait, throw it around a lot, catch a bunch of bass on it, become very confident in it. That's okay. But when you learn the behavior of the fish, their migration, all that stuff, the baits will make a whole lot more sense. So most of these baits I learned because I just went out and threw them a lot. I didn't really know why they were working. They were just working. Just got another bite there. They were just working. But once you learn kind of what the fish do in every different phase, then the baits really start making sense. So a swim bait, you can throw it a mile, get the wind to your back, you can sling it out there. Bass like big stuff in the post spawn, the shad spawn in the post spawn. It's the perfect forage, perfect profile, and then you can cover a bunch of water, which is perfect for this time of year. And like I said, I'm not great at this. I think I just missed another good bite. Felt him pick it up and he must have spit it out. But yeah, the key to this, find a day where they will bite it. You know, we've got clouds, we got a good amount of wind. So it's not like I'm coming out here forcing it. I'm coming out here on a good fishing day. They should be biting a lot of things. Great time to learn. I know a lot of fish live in this general area. and I have a pretty good idea of the sweet spots in the pre-spawn in this general area. Now figure out where they go when they leave. I know where they go when they're coming in and where they go when they're in doing their thing. Now it's all about figuring out how they come out. They're not going to go in the same way. Now this is the same general area. This is really close to a lot of the places where I catch them pre-spawn, and I fish through all those places. You know, most of those pre-spawn baits, you can catch some fish year-round on them, but a Carolina rig, a deep diving crankbait, a swim bait, a football head jig, all those baits really are catered towards fishing fast, covering a lot of water. Especially that crankbait, that swim bait, and that Carolina rig. So when they're scattered and you may only get 1 or 2 bites off a spot, and you may have to fish a couple 100 yards before you get that bite, that's where covering water is super important. And I said earlier, I've been doing the spinnerbait thing, fishing shallow, wacky rig, and I just don't think that's really going on for big fish. We fished 3 days and we didn't catch one bigger than that I just caught. So I haven't been out here very long, so that's a pretty good sign. It is a good fishing day though. We didn't really have conditions this good the last 3 days, so that may have something to do with it. But on lakes where you can't, or you typically don't catch big ones up shallow around the spawn, you know, you don't see 5 big ones caught that way. It's a lot more difficult to fish for them in the pre-spawn and the post-spawn when a lot of them are spawning. But if you can somehow get away with spending a lot of time pre-spawn, post-spawn fishing, that's where the tournaments are going to be won. That's where you're going to have your best days, because there's always going to be some fish that aren't in the spawn phase. You know, if it's early in the year, but you have unseasonably warm weather, yeah, a lot of them are going to go to the bank and start spawning, but you will still have a good amount of them pre-spawn. And then those ones that spawn super early, you know, fish will sometimes spawn in February if you get enough warm water, enough warm conditions. Those fish that live shallower year round, you know, that surface temp sparks them into going to the bank and spawning. You know, those fish that live deeper most of the year, they're probably going to wait. They're going to be the later spawners. But the key is figuring out those fish that are in the pre and the post. And then when you have shad spawn, that starts going on, better believe there's going to be some fish out there. You know, as much as a bass wants to go and spawn, as much as it's in their DNA for them to go to the bank and spawn, they also can't hang up there forever. You know, they can't hold their eggs forever. They can't go up there without food for a long time. So when food starts becoming readily available, they're going. I'm out in 12 feet of water, throwing up into about 6. So we're fishing in that mid-range, structure fishing. I'm spending a lot of time looking at my map. Spend a little bit of time looking at what's on the bottom. I'm marking some fish. I'm seeing a lot of isolated wood, stumps, all that, and then a Bass Tricks 6-inch swim bait with a 3/8 ounce head on there. I got a little weed guard. I don't really know if that's necessary. I'm fishing around some isolated grass as well, some eelgrass, some coontail, covering a lot of water with wind to my back so I can make those really long casts. The wind is really what dictated me to fish this side. If we had wind coming from that direction, I'd probably be on the other side of the lake. So I really like the wind blowing in on me while I'm doing this type of technique. And then again, clouds. I might be looking for a little bit different areas if I had some sun. This is a really good way to fish fast and cover water on a day where you know they're biting. I didn't even bring a Carolina rig today for that reason. I knew if I got out here and I threw this around for an hour without a bite, I probably would go to a Carolina rig because that's just how I am. So I didn't even put it in the boat. I haven't even unstrapped that other side. I've just kind of locked this in my hand. And I used to catch a bunch of fish on this bait, and then I just kind of got away from it. Luckily, I have a ton of them in the boat, or a ton of them in my shop. Now I got a ton of them in my boat, but I didn't, for a while there, I didn't have them in the boat at all for a couple of years there until I probably gave a bunch of my money to guys that were throwing a lot. So that's pretty much it, guys. Try a swim bait in the post spawn. If you have a little bit of clarity in your lake, you probably need, I don't know, let's see, about that much clarity. And you really don't even need that much if you're fishing it around like brush piles or something. If you're really putting it on the cover, you might not even need that much water clarity for it. If you're just fishing around structure, a lot of those fish are just out here kind of roaming. Water clarity is important, but try a swim bait in the post spawn. Cover a ton of water, catch big bass. Good luck to you guys, and I'll see you on the water.